Dismissal of Houston's Methodist Hospital employees' lawsuit may be an indicator of vaccine acceptance and long-term healthcare implications.
A judge has dismissed the lawsuit from Houston Methodist employees upset about being required to get a COVID vaccine to keep their jobs. The judge says the hospital's decision does not count as wrongful termination, according to Texas law. You can read the judge's full reasoning for dismissing the lawsuit on our website, khou.com. The employees are expected to appeal and want this to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Joining us to discuss this is NNV Weekly contributor, Dr. Akili Muhammad. Greetings, sir.
Greetings, ma'am. How are you?
Good, good. And what are your thoughts on the results of the Methodist suit against mandatory vaccination?
You know, I think some of the statements that this judge made, I think, kind of really pinpointed my ideology on this, and that is, he used a word. It was I'm actually can't remember the word, but he really said it was basically unfounded for them to use any kind of connection to the Germans and what they did to the Jews. Of course, that was part of their argument, is that they felt that they were being experimented on. And it was a threat against the Nuremberg Code, which came out of that Nazi Germany reality of what they did to the Jews. And as I have mentioned many times before, that the Nuremberg Code has never protected Black, Brown, Indigenous people. And so I am kind of a little curious about continuing to watch what's happening, because it seems as if there's being a serious divide in this country. And I don't mean like the divide that's already been against, the darker skinned people against white people, but I'm talking about a divide within the white population, because some of the terminology that was used in this judge's response seemed to have a little energy in it that was a little beyond just dealing with the law aspects of it. And specific to the actual case, these people are willing to take it all the way to Supreme Court because they really believe they have something firm to stand on. And I think that the whole aspect of this ruling, if we're really paying attention, is pretty significant, because the EUA, the emergency use authorization that the FDA gave to these vaccine companies in order to give this to the public, stated that the persons that were going to get the vaccine had to be told that it was experimental, that it hadn't gone through the full set of testing that has happened in the past, and that people had the right to turn it down. But yet, even within that FDA explanation of what a person had the right to do, companies are able to tell their employees that they can't continue to be employed because they don't have the shot. And I think as of yesterday, Monday, June 14th, those people that were in that suit, they were actually suspended from work. And so they have, I think it's 2 weeks in order to either get the shot or they will be terminated.
Right. Now, are other states involved, do you think, or at least watching to see how this plays out?
Well, my understanding is, as of right now, there is a case in Indiana that is pretty much the same reality. There were a group of people that came together and filed a lawsuit because they didn't want to take the vaccine to keep their jobs in the healthcare field. And I believe there's something like that going on in New Mexico, a couple other states. I can't remember them right off the top of my head right now, but there are quite a few states. And the interesting thing is that in that response from the judge, and I shouldn't say the response from the judge, but in some of the articles that were talking about the response from the judge, there were many people at Methodist who had the religious or personal exemption, because Texas still allows those. So that's another complicating factor, is that there are people that protected their job not by joining this suit and not by standing up and saying they weren't going to take it, but by getting a religious exemption.
What does this indicate as it relates to vaccine acceptance, country and state, or I'm sorry, worldwide?
Yes, I think, primarily, I think it's going to be an aspect of unrest amongst healthcare workers, because I am for sure talking to my colleagues that there were many people across this country that work in the healthcare field that are not comfortable taking the vaccine, especially since the last probably month, when they're starting to see the number of people that are coming into the hospital with problems because of the vaccine. And then they're watching the numbers in their own facilities increase as far as the number of people that have had problems with the vaccine outnumbering the people that are coming in the hospital because of the actual infection. That's got to be a serious, serious concern for many of these healthcare workers. And they were watching Methodist and the situation that was going on in Houston very closely. And I think it's going to cause some people that are against mandatory vaccine, they're going to dig in. And it's also going to probably intimidate some people and cause some people to give in to the vaccine. And so I don't think this did anything but is going to cause those who really have a serious reason to stand up, it's probably going to fuel them even more.
Now, with you mentioned the EUA's regulations, those who have a religious exemption, with this judge making his ruling, does that not go against the regulations?
Well, I don't think it goes against religious exemption, because I don't think that's what these people were standing on. I think they were trying to argue that there was no typical trial phase like there are in typical vaccines. Number two, they considered it experimentation, and they explained the fact that emergency use authorization has these allowances that people don't have to be forced to take it. And so they felt that they had the ability to stand on that. And that's different from the religious and the personal exemptions, because these are state mandated realities that have been, in the policies for many, many, many years before the COVID vaccine was introduced to the public. So their mandates as far as religious and personal exemptions predates any type of pandemic. So, states haven't changed those laws.
Oh, perfect. Okay. What would you say are the long and the short-term healthcare implications of a ruling such as this one?
Yeah, short-term, I am concerned, as I've said, on this show previously, that this pandemic is not over. There are many people that are talking about a potential serious summer because of the increase of large gatherings and the relaxation of a lot of these mandates that states were making. And so that's my first concern. And then secondly, it would be that if this institutes just a nationwide revolution in the actual healthcare system, we're talking about serious implications if 40, just on the smaller amount of the percentage, let's just say 40% of healthcare workers decide to walk away from the healthcare field or just decide to strike. And a pandemic starts to have the numbers increase. And these things are happening simultaneously. We're talking about some serious implications. We're talking about looking at what we've seen in some other countries. Like, it was horrible here in the United States, but visually, some of the visuals that we've seen, like from India and other countries that are having serious problems like that, you're looking at a possibility that America could have some issues like that. And I don't think this country can recover from where it is now. And so if something like that happens, I think it's going to be very difficult for us to ever consider anything normal in this country ever again.
Right. And very quickly, Dr. Akili, there still has been some talks of a booster shot. There have also been some issues raised about the current number of shots, but specifically the second shot. What would you say your thoughts are on what may be coming for the fall season, when we normally see things such as the flu and other viruses hit the country?
Right. That brings up many, many questions, right? Because we are literally, from the perspective of the general public, we're really just in about the fourth, going into approximately the fifth month of vaccines. And we're already starting to talk about whether or not you need a booster shot. But yet the vaccine adverse event reporting system, the VAERS system, is continually having the numbers go up. And so the number of people that are having a problem with this vaccine are continuing to manifest itself. And yet we have public propaganda. I will not call it news. I will not recall it actual facts because it's not that, but public propaganda is saying that the vaccine is responsible for the fact that the numbers are low in the United States, that the vaccine is the reason why people can go back and start communing in large numbers like they are, that the vaccine is responsible for bringing some people back to this normalcy that they believe is occurring right now. That is a dichotomy that is based in no scientific actual facts, because there hasn't been any proof yet that this vaccine will stop the contagiousness from a person giving or receiving it of this COVID vaccine. And so there are a lot of people that have confidence in an idea that hasn't been proven. And so when you have that type of reality in a society where 170, I think it's approximately 174 million people have been vaccinated, meaning that there's another half of this country that's not vaccinated, we're looking at some serious issues that are going to come as far as people being able to trust, as far as people being able to come to a true conclusion. And then those who have confidence and who have made a decision, oh, everything is better because of the vaccine. When the truth comes out and you find out that that's not true, there's going to be some pretty serious vitriol of people in this country towards their government.
That's correct. Right. All right, Dr. Akili, the Ultimate Wellness Group, will you be meeting today? And if so, what are you discussing?
Well, actually, we'll be discussing exactly those questions that you asked me today. It's amazing. And in addition, we'll be talking about the ImmunoBoost supplement that we believe will actually help protect people going into what potentially could be a pretty horrific summer and winter months towards the end of this year. So tune into the Ultimate Wellness Group on the Ultimate Wellness Group, or the Ultimate Wellness Group, THEE, on Facebook. We'll have a wonderful discussion. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Akili, for your insight.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. When we return, Thomas X will address the continuing issue of excessive force used by police. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Amirah Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
As American policing continues to rage out of control with excessive force, The question is, are Black people living in a police state within America?
Breonna Taylor.
A woman was shot and killed in her apartment. George Floyd died in police custody after an officer pressed his knee into Floyd's neck.
He said, "I can't breathe," eerily similar to what we heard in 2014 with Eric Garner.
Black Lives Matter.
I filed an amended complaint that charges former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin with murder in the second degree.
George Floyd, whose killing by U.S. police triggered anti-racism protests right around the
Weeks
world.
of global protests and international support
And impact around the world.
Protesters marched once again in cities worldwide demanding police departments change their tactics.
George Floyd! George Floyd! George Floyd!
Joining us with more on this is NNV contributor Thomas X. Greetings, sir.
Greetings. How are you, my sister?
Good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Police continue to use excessive force, including unjustified shootings, severe beatings, fatal choking, and general vulgar treatment, according to the Final Call article. American policing continues to rage out of control. Why is law enforcement recalcitrant, unrepentant, and unwilling to change?
Well, that's an excellent question, but it's a question that's been asked year after year after year. And we can, with a consensus, agree that it continues because there are no consequences. Because those who are in position to bring about consequences are a part of the same system that gives the officers confidence to police, specifically the Black and brown communities in which they police those communities. And so I was just thinking, Sister Rosalind, in the Final Call newspaper, which the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan began to redistribute over 40 years ago, in the Muslim Wants, it says that we want an immediate end to police brutality and mob attacks for the so-called Negro throughout America. That's over 40 years ago. So it appears that we can be looking for a solution that is just not on the minds of those within government. And so the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the back page of the Final Call also stated that the best and only solution to this problem and all of the problems that are between the original people and Caucasians or those who have the Caucasian mentality is separation. He said that separation is the greatest and only solution. So it appears that looking for justice or looking for a change with a systematic issue is just not in the near future, not about to happen in the near future.
Now, are police methods of containment and control of the Black community systemic racism in action?
Emphatically, yes. Okay. I almost said the H word, Sister Rosa. But emphatically, yes. We can see that when the police are policing our community, it isn't as if the interaction is police to civilian. Civilian being a person who you want to keep out of harm's way and away from the activity of what would be a soldier's activity. However, whenever our communities are being policed, the police approach our people as if we are automatic threats. And so when they have the mentality of a threat being in front of them or policing a community of the threat, then there's automatic friction whenever there's a confrontation that happens. There's no de-escalation tactics. There's no conversations, civilized conversations. But it's automatically, it appears that the police automatically go to the extreme when de-escalating any issue. It can be minor or medium issue. And oftentimes the minor issues become major issues, not on the fault of the individual who the police may have approached, but oftentimes the police are the ones who turn minor issues into major issues because of the lack of people skills that are being taught within the academies, I would say.
Okay. Anthony Brown Jr., 42, shot in his car. Lyman Moses, 30, shot after resting in his car. Adolph Grimes III, 22, was sitting in his car when 80 shots were fired into it. Lucretia Murray, 36, shot 6 times by an off-duty police officer who failed to identify himself, and so many more incidents that just are too many to mention.
Yes, ma'am.
With so much excessive force, as you just described, are Black people living in a police state within America?
That's a great question. And when you look up the definition of a police state, I would say, why would we not classify what we are living in as a police state? Because not only are we put in situations where our lives can be taken out in the community, but even in our own homes. So when we look at what went on with our sister Breonna Taylor, our sister was in her home. When we look at, and you just named some people, but we can go on with a Mike Brown Jr. We can go on to a Freddie Gray. There's a brother that back in the day here in Indianapolis, his name is Michael Taylor, was murdered and handcuffed in the back of a police vehicle. So this is not anything new. And when you look at these type of incidents happening, we have no other reason to believe that we're living in a police state. You know, so however, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad stated in Message to the Black Man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has stated in many of his lectures, and it's a universal truth, that with our unity is more powerful than a nuclear or atomic bomb. So even with living in a police state, it is the unity or the unified efforts of our community that will begin to change some of the conditions that we see, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan also said, and I think I stated it last time we were on or conversing, that as long as we can be killed, but yet officers can go home to their families or eat nice meals, it will continue to happen. But whenever unity becomes present within our community, then, you know, the fear of consequences will come into the mind of those who are brutalizing brothers and sisters within our community.
Right.
And they'll think twice before these actions that we just named continue to occur.
Yeah,
in my humble opinion.
In your yes, sir. At least 6 people were fatally shot by police within the 24 hours that followed Derek Chauvin's conviction for murdering George Floyd.
Yes, ma'am.
As the scheduled sentencing for the murder of George Floyd occurs later this month, do you think there's a likelihood that there will be an increase in police misconduct and brutality?
Well, I have a question. How could it increase? It just has to be all-out war for it to increase. But yet, yes, man, I would say it's a great possibility that it will happen. But yet, if we know that there's a chance that it would happen, instead of being reactive, we have to be proactive with what we just discussed, the unity. Because if a officer is to come within our community, you know, let's say you and I live in a community and an officer know that I'm willing to do everything and anything possible to make sure you, your husband, and your children are safe and that things are handled in the proper manner, then the introduction to the community begins to be more strategic. There's more logic being used in the approach. But as long as we're disunified as a community, then this is going to continue to be an issue that we're speaking about, in my humble opinion.
In your humble opinion. I do have a question for you. We were talking about excessive force, of course, shooting, but there are other methods that police use that are excessive force. In regard to the National Police Reform Bill, why has that bill, which is a bill that would ban chokeholds, put prohibitions on no-knock police raids, and the creation of a national registry for officers with misconduct, why has that failed to pass the Senate?
Well, because it's a system, Sister Rosalind, it's a system. And to alleviate everything that gives, it's almost as if their power will be stripped away, right? Because if the officers are unable to deal with logic, inference, deduction, and make proper decisions, the aggressiveness is the power. So to take away those aggressive measures is a sense of power being withdrawn from the officers at hand. However, I was thinking about the other aggressive measures that are unspoken of, right? I work inside of the educational system. Do you know oftentimes when officers are approaching minors, the aggressive tone, the physical bully stature, or the aggressive nature, verbally and physically, is also a part of the brutality or the pre-brutality that, you know, a lot of our people are in fear of as well. So yes, we know about the brutality that comes by way of the weapon, but yet the brutality, the psychological brutality that the police, that officers are entering our community with, specifically as it relates to our youth, that's a major issue as well.
Yes, sir. Brother Thomas, as always, thank you for your insight on this issue. And we could talk about this all day.
Thank you so much, my sister.
All right. Yes, sir. We look forward to having you again. Thank you. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Afterward, we will be back to interview violinist Amirah Hashimah Muhammad. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App, NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline is dedicated to a good man and his good works. Longtime Chicago pastor and activist Father Michael Flager has worked tirelessly on behalf of poor and disenfranchised residents for decades in the face of opposition and trials. He continues to fearlessly fight and press ahead for the most vulnerable communities. This FCN volume number 37 edition middle page article is a message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled, "We Must Depend on Allah and Ourselves." To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call cover report.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
You may have heard the phrase, music is a universal language, and our beautiful sister Amirah Hashimah Muhammad speaks to us every time she shares her gift of music with her instrument of choice, the violin.
My name is Sister Amirah Muhammad. I am 20 years old. I am an MGT Vanguard. I'm a violinist, and I'm a student of music and the performing arts and culture. There's like this challenge that's been going around with violinists. It's called the 100 Days of Practice. And basically what these violinists do is they post a video of themselves practicing every day for the next 100 days. And I guess I should say now, because I want to like keep myself accountable, but I think I want to attempt the practice challenge.
Joining us is Sister Amirah Muhammad. Greetings, sister.
Greetings, sis.
Hey. Now, how old were you when you first were introduced to or picked up the violin?
Yes, so I was 2 years old. The way that kind of happened, you would not think that, of course, I'd be 2 years old and choose a violin, but my father, Brother Amirah Muhammad, was, or is rather, a professional concert violinist. And him and my mom, my mother, Sister Isabel, they started Muhammad School of Music in 1999. So I was kind of born into this. And so they used to teach out of our home. And when the students would come over to play, I would be very young, old enough to walk, and I would try to like take their violins and be like, okay, I think she's ready for a violin. So then I got a small 16th size violin that kind of how I started. And then from there, I just stuck with it.
Okay. Now, was the violin your first instrument? Is it your only instrument?
It's my first instrument. Later, I began to pick up the piano as well. So I do it mostly for like music theory and learning the music and things, and for ear training. But for violin, that's my main instrument, my main focus.
Perfect. Now, how you said you started when you were 2. You're much older now, still young, but much older now. How did you balance school, friends, MGT class, and practice?
That's a very good question. I'm still learning. That's something that has also been kind of a challenge, considering that we're inside and it's a pandemic and our instructions are to shelter in place. So much has come on that is something that we have to strive to for myself. Time management, but I think it was just trying to be disciplined, which takes the violin, or what the violin teaches me is discipline, because it very much could become, okay, well, everything else got taken care of, but the violin, you have to practice it each day to be able to excel. And so I guess it was kind of a thing that it was my desire to improve and learn these pieces. So in order to do so, you have to be disciplined, you have to stick to your schedule and be able to manage everything. It's still like a learning thing for me, is learning how to be disciplined with it. But yeah.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Yes. What are your goals in regard to playing this instrument?
That's another great question. It's constantly evolving when it comes to my goals. I tend to be someone that does not limit myself when it comes to the kinds of things that I see myself doing. So I intend to later this year take my my training to the next level. So now I will be starting a degree program. I'll be starting in a music conservatory soon, and so that my intent with that is to, of course, learn repertoire and really build the skill when it comes to classical, because it's not something that you see very many young Black musicians and artists attempting classical because of the difficulty level. But that is also something else that I is another one of my goals is to kind of open the door, if I can, for many other younger Black classical musicians to be able to gain the skill, because it's definitely something that, again, you don't see many of us doing, and maybe because we do not see ourselves in it. So I definitely intend to get as much as I can, learn as much as I can, and then be able to bring it back so that way younger Black artists are able to do so as well. So yes.
Right. Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, one question that I wanted to make sure that I asked was, how has the minister's mastery of the violin influenced you and your training?
More than words can even express. Wow, that's a huge question. I would say, well, it's kind of been like a part of how I started too, because that is how my father learned about the nation, and so because of that, I would not even be here, to put it like that. And so my father being able to see not only a Black man teaching and freeing his people, but being that example of a Black man playing the violin, you don't see that ever. And so for my father to be inspired by that, then learn about the teachings, then join the nation, then my family, I was born, we started the music school. It's something that's like right there in things that I love, is music, Islam, my teachings. The minister has done that for me, and I would not even be playing the violin today if it were not for his example. And so now, just moving on, especially with his recent performance, he talked about how if we take this classical arts to our people, they'll come out and support. They'll come out, and it's important for us to also strive for that kind of mastery in music, because he said Beethoven was Black. Not many of our people know that. And so if we were to take it, acknowledge that, and then strive for mastering that art, we really can achieve it. And so that's what the minister has done, like more and more and more, that I can talk about this all day. Just in a kind of, to sum it all up, is just like knowledge of self through music is what he has done, especially through his recent Beethoven Violin Concerto performance. That I know that was something super, super important and inspiring to me recently. So yes, ma'am.
I did see a piece of that. Yes, ma'am. How long? Now, I stumbled upon some information and a video. So my question to you now is, how long did it take for you and your brother to learn the piece by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled "A White Man's Heaven is a Black Man's Hell"?
Yes. So that has always been like one of my favorite tracks. Just to listen to. I'll put it on like as often as I can. And so one day, that actually was not planned. It was just like a random kind of thing. We're like, okay, we have some time. We got everything done. Let's go on a live practice. And somebody was in the comments like, you all should learn this song. So we're like, that's a good idea, because we've always listened to it but never attempted actually playing it by ear, because there's no sheet music. Like here, I have my sheet music. There's no sheet music for that piece because it is the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan's composition. And so in order for me to be able to play it, and for both of us to be able to play it, we had to listen to it. So we turned it on my laptop. We were still on live. And we're like, okay, let's try to figure out these notes. It's kind of like ear training. Well, not kind of. It is ear training.
It is.
And so we kind of took the time and we tried to figure it out. And so I kind of cut pieces of that live Instagram live that we did and put it together. And so it has clips of us like playing it fully through. So it was really a quick thing. We definitely have to pick it back up and practice it to be able to like play it fully through, but just points in it. It's just taking from everything that we've learned pieces prior, because it's all the same 7 notes in different orders when it comes to those kinds of pieces. And so that was really exciting for us to try to ear train and learn a piece that we grew up listening to. So yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, do you have your instrument nearby by chance?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you mind playing for maybe about 30 seconds, maybe about a minute, very quickly, just a small piece of whatever piece of music that you'd like or enjoy these days?
Yes, ma'am. Well, actually, I will play, I hope this isn't taking out of view. I'll play just the opening of the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, because that is the concerto that I'm working on. It's in progress, so please forgive me for any errors or mistakes that I may make. But this is kind of what I am working on at the moment. So,
okay. That was wonderful. And you started out by saying, forgive you for any mistakes. I promise if it were me to pick up that instrument, it would definitely not sound as beautiful as that just did. Sister Amirah. Thank you for joining us, Sister Amirah, and sharing your gift with us. I'll continue to look at your page and watch for more from you.
yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. I truly enjoyed it, and it's such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Rosalind Parks with National Network View News. Good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.